Well, my name is Burnie Burns, and I am the owner of a company called Rooster Teeth Productions. It's one of the biggest producers of online content for the internet. We are one of the largest channels on YouTube, but primarily my job, what I'm known for, is that in 2003 I created a web series called Red vs. Blue, which is an animated series based on the video game Halo. It is now the longest running web series in the history of the internet. Well, Red vs. Blue started in an era where there wasn't a whole lot of video content online. It was before YouTube, so if you were going to make any video content, you had to host it yourself. And I was just playing video games with my buddies. It was back in the days when you had to drag consoles all over to one guy's house, and you'd sit there and play till like midnight or beyond that, and you'd yell at each other back and forth across different rooms after you'd hooked up all your Xboxes. And I guess Red vs. Blue was just born out of that atmosphere of just, you know, the guys yelling back and forth and the fun multiplayer environment. We wanted to give a voice to these multiplayer characters who don't really have a part in these huge epic campaigns that are part of these AAA video game titles. They just kind of throw them in these little arenas and make them fight each other, and we wanted to know what the story behind those guys was. It's hard to remember now, but Halo was the first-person shooter that got it right on the console, which I think was a big deal. I was always a big believer or a big fan of video games, and big video games, at least at the time, they had these huge epic single-player campaigns where you'd play through it, there was a huge storyline, and then there was the multiplayer mode, which is essentially just all the models and characters from the campaign thrown in a closed room, and they all had to kill each other. And there was no real rhyme or reason as to why that was, and so I thought it'd be funny if we gave a voice to those multiplayer characters, like why are they stuck in the middle of this lousy canyon fighting one another? And so it became less about the fighting, less about, you know, shooting and running and throwing grenades, that's what the video game is, and more about the downtime, more about the bureaucracy of military. And so what it became was less of an action movie and more of a comedy that's like Stripes in space, essentially. We had a bunch of idiots in superpowered armor. The only thing that makes them extraordinary is the fact that they're in the middle of this intergalactic conflict. We stumbled on a form of filmmaking called Machinima, and that's Machinima with little m. It's a genre of filmmaking. What that is where you take the 3D engines that run video games and you use them to make short animations, typically for the internet. Essentially what Machinima is, it's almost like digital puppeteering. Because you can control all the characters in a video game, you end up with this closed environment, and you have every controller is a character on screen. So you have all these people in the room, and they're all controlling these characters in real time. So unlike animation, you do rehearsals, you do takes, you have to hit marks, just like you do in live action filmmaking. But unlike live action filmmaking, you know, we can have a sci-fi set without having to spend all the money to build a sci-fi set. We can have explosions without having to have visual effects people, because the video game takes care of all that for us. Well, back in the early days, it was, you know, I had a full-time job, and so on Thursday nights after work, I would bring my buddies Jeff and Gus over, and we would sit there and record all the dialogue. We would get our friends who were in LA to send us their dialogue, then we'd cut it all together, and then after we had the full waveform for the episode done, it essentially was like a radio play. You could just listen to it and listen to the dialogue and the characters and get the story that way. Then we would sit down and we would animate using Halo. We would animate the visuals to go along with that audio, and then we would post that online. For probably the first 2 or 3 years that I made Red vs. Blue, I didn't sleep on a Thursday night. Thursday night was that was the day of the week that I stayed up all night. And then I went to work the next day and then crashed on the weekends because our shows came out on Friday. We put out the first episode, it had 3,000 views, and then it got linked on, this is now 2003, so the popular sites at the time were Fark, Slashdot, and a site called Penny Arcade, a big, huge gaming site. They run PAX now these days, and they all linked it in one day, brought our servers to their knees from people coming in to see the video, and we had to scramble to figure out a way to serve the video. The following week, we went from 3,000 views to 250,000 views when we put out the second episode. And the week after that, we were at almost 1 million, and by the end of the month, we were at 1 million views an episode, and we were just off to the races after that. It was pretty crazy.